Folks, please give another warm welcome for Noppol. He's going to do a second session for us on integrating your insights into external systems. This is one of the really cool parts about SupportLogic is that we now integrate with Snowflake Data Cloud and different systems that allow you to pull all these insights out and do so much with them, and he's going to get really into it. So put your hands together.
Thank you, Ryan. Yes, so today, or this session, we're going to be talking about how we can extract all the stuff that SupportLogic has captured into other external systems. Right? I talked about all the custom fields and all the sentiment that we extract, but we don't need to look at it all inside SupportLogic. There's a lot of avenues and a lot of things that we can extract from this. And with me today, I have someone from NTT Data, Sundar S., who's going to help me explain some of the things that they're using SupportLogic for to help bring their customer experience focus into their business. That'll be towards the end, and we'll let him share his story on that. Okay, so today's agenda for this session is we're going to talk about SupportLogic being a system of intelligence. This is just a reminder of the things that we're capturing, the sentiments and the different types of signals that we're capturing from the unstructured portions of your case data. The types of insights extracted, so not just the signals, but also the content and context around it. The different avenues of where you can send these signals to, right? That is already available inside SupportLogic. So utilizing SupportLogic and sending these out through the Core SX functionality, and then also using external systems, right? We have other stuff outside of SupportLogic that can really help you grab those metrics and put it into any system that you can that you utilize today. And then at the very end, with the help of Sundar, he's going to help you guys kind of brainstorm how you would use SupportLogic's metrics in some of the newer ways to uncover SupportLogic data. So with that, dashboards are very important today because they help you bring and drive business decisions based off of the insights. And true value from that is coming from the sentiments that are captured in the unstructured portions of your case data. And as we have been mentioning all day, SupportLogic focuses on the customer experience because we believe customers, your customers are the ones that are interacting and building that relationship with your product. And if you have happy customers, they're the ones that are going to continue using your products going forward. So these are just some of the different types of insights that we extract using SupportLogic from your system of record, right? And this is any of your CRM stuff, Salesforce, Zendesk, anything that's available that you use to capture case data, we can integrate it into SupportLogic, and we can extract not just the scores, but the context and also QA metrics from these things. We can use these things like the sentiment score to really detect how your customers are feeling, right? Are they feeling frustrated? Are they upset? Are they negatively experienced in the support that they're getting? We have things like the attention score, which talks about any critical or urgency that might be behind the messages coming from your customer. Sometimes your customer may have a production issue, and we may label that as an urgency signal because the customer can't access their production system. We also have things that can roll up into the health score. So taking those two scores, the sentiment and attention, and also all of the case data that we've had for a particular account and roll it up into an account health score. And in addition to that, we also have the elevate portion where we can start measuring how your agents are handling their support cases. Are they speaking to your customers correctly? Are they following up on the things that they're recommending, right? We can follow and auto QA how your agents are reacting and working with your customers. So the first two, the sentiment and attention score, these are on every single case that comes in. And as cases get updated with new messages that come in, or maybe time has passed, these things will influence the two scores that you see. The sentiment score, again, is how your customers are feeling. So they may express negative sentiment, they may express frustration, confusion, things like that, we can help identify the type of issue your customers are experiencing, and that'll be rolled up into the sentiment score. Then we also have other signals like urgency or criticality, or other things that we can detect, like perhaps the customer just wants a follow-up request or just maybe a call request. We can detect those types of messages and roll them up into the attention score. So you could think of the attention score as SupportLogic telling you that you need to pay more attention because of the signals that we've been extracting for those two. And these two are color-coded, so they are there to provide visual content without actually having to look at the numbers. But if you did need to know more details, you can just look at the numbers or hover over it, and you'll get a trend line of how the score has been faring over the life of the case that you see. Those two scores and all the case data will then roll up to the account health score. So this is the current version of the account health score. We did show you a preview of what we will be building it out to, which is the account hub summary, which will incorporate this that you see. Right? This is just a more condensed version of what we're going to be releasing later, what we showed you earlier. But basically, it's just essentially the account health score weighted with the most recent cases in the last 90 days. And we'll give you a trend line of what that looks like, and also all of the contributing factors that make up that health score. Right? So if there are any escalations, any new recent or active escalations, are there any engineering issues? So we can tie in your JIRA cases and highlight any of those cases that are tied to those engineering tickets. We can also look at case activity, so we will know if the account has an increase in case volume, right? We will show you which of those cases and their sentiment scores for it, as well as case sentiment, right? We can show you the sentiment for the customers going up or down, and we can coach your agents to respond accordingly. This is the QA metrics portion of it, and this is part of our Elevate SX, where we measure how your agents are talking to your customers, how they're responding to your customers, right? And we take in scorecards, or what we call a rubric, that you may already have implemented. We can configure our auto QA to look for these things using AI and ML and also NLP. What we do is we create these behaviors and skills, and we measure to see if the agent has been doing these types of skills or behaviors. Have they introduced themselves? Have they identified the problem? Have they reiterated and follow up with a scheduled call? Right? We can check for these things within it and add a metric value to that. So now we can see, in this particular case, how the agent is faring when they're talking to their customers. We also have one more metric, if you can kind of see down here. It's called the CES metric, which is the customer effort score. And what that does is it defines how much effort the customer is putting into the case, either by responding, either by the signals that we were detecting. Again, that's negative signals or urgency signals or sentiment signals. We can now detect, and this typically leads into CSAT surveys, how much effort the customer is doing. What we see is if the customer is putting a lot of effort into this, meaning the CES score is going up, that usually typically reflects as a negative CSAT because that's putting more effort on the customer, it's requiring the customer to do more work, and through the signals that we detect, they do not like things when we ask them to do more work than necessary. So with that, we have the CES score, we have the QA score, we have the other two scores to really give you that full 360-degree view of your customer and agents inside your support organization. So the other types of signals that we also have is the likely to escalate signal. So in addition to us providing you scores, every single case will go through our predictive escalation model. And what that does is any time the case has been updated, meaning the score has changed, maybe there's been a new response, maybe there just hasn't been a response after X amount of days or X amount of time, we will tag a case that's likely to escalate if we believe that nothing is going to be done if you don't take any action in the next 72 hours. And we're not just going to tag that case. We're going to give you all the insights on why we believe this case is going to escalate. And that's shown here on the right-hand side for all the different key insights on why we think this case is going to escalate. And this is available for every single case that comes in, and if we decide it's going to escalate or not, right? And so this is something that you can really take advantage of and get in front of the customer before they even decide that they need to escalate. Okay. These are just a couple of how we extract sentiments from the conversations within SupportLogic. On the right side is just an example of one of the communication methods your customers may be responding to your CRM, whether it's through email, whether it's through the portal, whether it's through chat, even voice transcripts, anything like that. We can ingest it and we can extract sentiments from it. And on the left-hand side is how it looks when we extract those sentiments. We give you the sentiment label at the very top and then the actual message coming from the customer to help show you what we've labeled as these types of sentiments. Again, this can come from chat transcripts, voice transcripts, email, portal, web chat, anything like that. Okay? The next way is just going to talk to you about how SupportLogic can currently extract signals outside of the Core SX platform, right? And this is just different integrations that use SupportLogic as a way to bring signals outside of SupportLogic, right? The first thing that we're going to talk about is the control plane. This is basically SupportLogic being the center analysis tool to bring in data for analysis and also push data out to other tools like MS Teams or Slack or any of your favorite BI tools to provide the sentiments and metrics from your support organization. We have things like the CRM widgets that we can integrate into your CRM using iframes, right? And we mentioned iframes because that's what makes us agnostics to any CRM. We do currently support Salesforce with those widgets, but if you have anything like Zendesk or ServiceNow, we can provide you with iframes and also assist you with creating native apps that utilizes those iframes inside your CRM. Okay? BI dashboards, so being able to extract these sentiments like the churn risk signal, the likely to escalate signals externally through alerts, as well as events-driven API, right? And so you can have your third-party application be set up to receive alerts coming from SupportLogic, and then you can have them trigger any type of workflow or any process within your third-party application. Okay, so you can kind of think of this as the SupportLogic being the main driver. On the left-hand side is the CRM system. We can connect to other systems as well. CRM is just one of them. I think in the last slide I showed being able to connect to engineering systems as well, so we can incorporate that as also. And then on the right side is us being able to push SupportLogic metrics to any of these available external systems. One is Slack and MS Teams. We have integrations to Gainsight. We can push things to Tableau. Again, through the widgets, we can push things through the CRM so that you can have and live inside your CRM UI as well. Or anywhere else within the organization, right? Through email, through events-driven API, through your third-party application that accepts API calls. And what's great about these things as we extract and send these or push these signals out, you can also take action on them. So we don't expect you to receive these signals and then be brought back to SupportLogic. Utilizing Slack and MS Teams, you can actually respond to likely to escalate cases, cases that we tagged as likely to escalate. If we detected a sentiment, you can actually acknowledge sentiments from within your Slack messaging, so you don't actually have to leave whatever it is you're doing to take care of the case at hand or to get proper insights from it. We can do other things, like we'll notify you when cases have been reassigned, and you can respond to that specifically by clicking directly into your CRM UI, or you can be brought back into the SupportLogic UI. So we have the customizations to be able to do any of those workflow processes that might be pertinent to you guys. Okay. This was just going into more specific ones. I know I talked about a little bit about the events API, so I'll show you an example of what and how we can integrate with that. These are other external systems that we have available that are available to you today. One is the SupportLogic Data Cloud. So that's us being able to provide you with the raw metrics that we've detected inside SupportLogic. So if you wanted to do analysis on maybe the total number of sentiments or maybe even some reporting on usage, you would utilize the SupportLogic Data Cloud to grab all that information. And the benefit about that is that we host the SupportLogic Data Cloud, and all you need to do is just query into our database. So there's no cost to you to host it. That is something that we would do for you. Universal write back, so being able to write back, this is a little bit different from the iframes that we also have here. This is sending data back directly into your CRM system, right? So with the iframes and the widgets and the native apps, that's typically read-only, being able to look at the insights coming from SupportLogic. What we've seen customers ask for is being able to build reports inside Salesforce using SupportLogic metrics as well. And so to be able to do that, we've incorporated the universal write back framework, and it has a fancy name just so that it's also CRM agnostic, being able to work with any of the CRMs that are out there. And then also the native Gainsight integration, which I'll go ahead and show you towards the end. With that, we are able to send alerts to Gainsights, for example, specific signals like churn risk and likely to escalate. And what that will do inside Gainsight is trigger actions, call to actions, or populate things on the timeline when SupportLogic has detected this. So we can give your users inside Gainsights, your CSMs, that full 360-degree picture of your customer that includes how they're doing inside your support organization. So this is just an example of the Events API. I think you've probably all seen this before, where we have all of our alerts here on the right-hand side, all the custom fields that are available. But the main thing I wanted to show you is the ability to put in your Events API URL so you can post any of these alerts to your third-party API application, right? And what will this enable you to do is you can create a scoreboard of this, right? You can have a scoreboard for your team to show you which signals have been coming in. You can create workflows that are automatically triggered through the Events API. For example, if there's a specific customer that's a high-value customer and they have a likely to escalate case, maybe you have a trigger that gets sent to your third-party API that triggers another workflow that alerts the CSMs or the AEs or anything like that. So now you have automation around when, I think we saw two signals in the last session, renewal and expansion. You can create Events APIs that stir up and create automation, visibility into when your customers are wanting expansions and things like that, opportunities like that. And so we can focus on sending these alerts through the Events API. This is to highlight exactly where the SupportLogic Data Cloud sits. Right? This is a typical architecture that we have for most of our customers. And our SupportLogic Data Cloud is basically a copy of the analytical database. And so when you want that raw metric data, you are actually going to be getting the raw metric data from our SupportLogic analytics system. So if you want to do analysis like understanding all the sentiments that come in for a particular customer or any other new idealistic, or not idealistic, a new way to kind of analyze metrics, feel free to go ahead and do that with SupportLogic Data Cloud. Share it with the community, and you can find new ways to create analysis, create new metrics, create new goals and KPI metrics for all of us to really achieve within our community. This is an example of the write back framework. So we have two CRMs here. We have one from Salesforce and one from Zendesk, and we're inputting the scores into this. And what that allow you to do is your customers will create dashboards or reports for support managers. You can even use this to create filters and use this to prioritize cases using your existing CRM. For example, if you didn't want to install the widgets or the native app, but you wanted to use write back framework, you have another way to prioritize your cases using SupportLogic's scores. And then from here, you can also create dashboards and reports inside your existing CRM systems, right? So some customers don't want to move to SupportLogic. They still want to do all their dashboard reporting, or maybe they've curated it over time and they just don't want to change it yet. We can push data into your CRM system so you can continue utilizing that. This is the framework. So again, this portion is just the read-only portion that we make available to your CRM system. Right? We both have, or I'm showing you now, Salesforce and Zendesk. Again, these are iframe endpoints that we will work with you so that you can create a native app inside your CRM system, and then we hook up those iframe endpoints. Okay? You will get all of those things, not only that you see today here, but all the stuff that you saw in the earlier sessions from the main room. Okay? This stuff includes things like case details, so you get all that core SX, SupportLogic metrics like the scores, any of the sentiments that were detected within the case. We can also show you highlights of events that have happened within the timeline of a particular case. And then as you can see here, we can start incorporating some of the other features and functionalities like generational AI to provide case summarization. We can also help with response assist, or if you have Resolve SX, we can incorporate Resolve SX, the answer engine, into this as well. Okay? Again, it's not tied to a specific CRM. We have this available for all CRMs that we support today. And this one is the native Gainsight integration. So this is a picture inside a Gainsight instance where we are sending signals coming from SupportLogic to the Gainsight timeline. Right? And this is maybe a Gainsight user just opening up Gainsight and seeing all these signals that came from SupportLogic, specifically likely to escalate and churn risk signals. Right? These are things that we believe CSM should be aware of if these things come into our support organization. Right? Yeah, so with that, I'm going to invite Sundar here. He's from NTT Global, and he's really, they are really taking advantage of utilizing SupportLogic to fulfill their vision that they have around the customer experience. Thank you, Sundar.
Yeah, thanks, Noppol. Hi guys, I'm Sundar. I've been with NTT for nearly 9 years now, so 9 years and counting. But we've been working with SupportLogic as a partner for nearly a year now. So we got onboarded on SupportLogic a year ago. When we touch on like why we started using SupportLogic, it comes down to the conversations we are having with our customers, right? Like, so when we talk to our customers, it's no more a product, a feature-based conversation. It's more of an outcome conversation. How is NTT helping NTT's customer deliver outcomes? I mean, that is the conversation we are having. In that context, if you look at NTT's client base, we have like about 7,000 clients, right? So there's 2 million assets we are handling, 60 to 100,000 tickets that we are handling a year. In all this noise, it's so easy for us to lose track of how the customer experience really is. So in that sense, our focus is to understand and articulate how a support delivery experience can add value to a client. So that is the whole thinking behind why we started integrating with SupportLogic, right? And across the 7,000 clients, we generate tremendous volumes of data. Like there's a lot of data in the different channels, the interactions, our omni-channel, whatever. There is a lot of data sitting in our environment. Our focus across all of this data is to make it reliable. And when we talk about reliability, we are talking about it in the context of what Dilip calls as Dilip is our executive for technology solutions. You might have heard him earlier in the day. When you talk to Dilip, Dilip says data needs to be reliable in terms of for our CEO. When he says CEO, it's customers, employees, and our organization. So in that context, whenever we think of a use case, those are the three personas we are effectively thinking. But so for our operators, it's a fairly, we are aligned to more or less the story you would have heard like all through the day, right? Like, so we have data, data is being converted into insights through the SupportLogic tool. And the insights have been great. Like we have been able to create some really valuable insights in terms of escalation, management, and all of that. But what we are also doing is bringing the data back into our systems. In that sense, our operators work predominantly within a ServiceNow environment, and our agent experience portal, which is something we are building as well. Having an operator switch between one and the other becomes challenging, and there is time that we lose, and there is problems that doesn't get resolved. So we are bringing the part of the work that we've been doing with SupportLogic Noppol is to ensure that any insights data that we build there makes its way back into the place where the operators are working and making decisions on, right? So that is more around the ease of access side of things, right? But then we started asking ourselves the question, right? How do we, as a company, explain this work that we are doing from an operational standpoint in an entity customer's context? So how do we explain that value to a customer, or how do we create a value proposition for the customer? So in that context, what we are doing is we are also creating a client-facing service experience dashboard, right? Like in that service experience dashboard, we are also embedding SupportLogic metrics. I know when like a lot of support organizations look at it, they look at it and go, like, these are internal metrics, like customers might think of it in any which way possible, but we take a different approach there, right? Like, so when we look at the metrics, what we think about is those metrics are going to start a conversation with the customer. Those metrics are going to make the customer ask us more questions, and that will make us more accountable. We are looking at it more as a feedback mechanism as well in our world. Say, for example, we have a product called SDI. A customer predominantly consumes that product from a portal interface that we call as a services portal. In the portal, we have the service experience dashboard, which is SupportLogic plus other insights and metrics that we have built within entity. When a customer looks at it, he knows exactly what is the value of the support he is getting. Historically, it has always been brushed under the radar, right? So customer would get it, but until something fails, he wouldn't really know the value of it. Now we are changing the conversation and flipping it around. So effectively, we are reimagining the way these personas work and effectively adding another persona to SupportLogic. And that is kind of how we are approaching this, right? In that sense, it's not without its challenges. There is certainly a lot of challenges in that scenario. One being the data side of things. A lot of work has gone behind the scenes to make sure that any data that we are showing to a customer, and I keep repeating to Noppol over and over again that any data that we show to the customer needs to be safe to consume. We can't really have discrepancies. We can't really show the wrong data, but also because there is AI in this, there is also the perception that we need to manage with our customers, which is a major thing that we are focusing on in that scenario. The second biggest challenge that we have seen is how do you get our, like when I say our, like entities, internal resources onboarded and speaking that language to a customer. So historically, they have not really spoken this to, like when they talk to a customer, they are talking about their experience 3 months ago. Now we are asking them to go and have a conversation about how we are solving their problem and that real-time actions much earlier on, right? Like, so that change of perception is something that we are trying to also change internally, and that is a process. Again, like all this is how we see our support organization evolving in the future, but also how we are translating it from a customer context perspective. And certainly, like with working with SupportLogic and seeing some of the features and functionalities that are coming up, I'm sure we've been having some interesting conversations earlier in the day, trying to see how more insights can be brought back into the entity context and how more value can be promoted. But looking forward to working with SupportLogic more in that context.
Thank you. Thank you, Sundar. Yeah. Yeah, so that's just an example of like new ways to brainstorm how you could utilize SupportLogic metric. Right, SupportLogic is really just in a new space. And I've had a lot of questions like, how do you even measure some of the things that SupportLogic is showing and exhibiting? And we just don't know, right? So we just find new ways that we can build and be transparent, or trying to drive these insights so that we can really build new metrics to measure on, right? How do we change the perceptive? We know that support is changing, and we need to create new metrics around that as well. So I encourage everyone, how do you use SupportLogic metrics externally? What would you do? Something to what NTT is doing, right? Would you be transparent with your customers? Is that something that you are interested in doing as well? Share it with the XX community live, and we can continue providing support that way. So yeah, thank you very much. Any questions? Happy to answer them.